Hey everybody, today's April 18, 2023, and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin and where I think it's headed for the remainder of the month. And before we begin, please read the disclaimer. You can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so last week I talked about how we were seeing a very similar price action to 2019, right? This is the 4-year cycle theory, right? How every 4 years we tend to see Bitcoin follow the same pattern or a similar pattern, where after the halving we see a magnificent rise in the price, and then of course it becomes parabolic, and then it basically crashes into a bear market, and then it bottoms, and then it repeats every 4 years, right? So if we think about 4 years ago in 2019, I talked about how we were seeing a very similar pattern, right? We had a breakout of 26%. Also, we saw a breakout of 26%, right? And then followed by a month of consolidation, and then finally a breakout. So this was early April. So last week I updated this chart, and we of course saw a similar pattern. We have finally broke out, right? Very similar to this is April 2019, right? Also 4 years later, April 2023, very similar. So the question is, are we going to follow a breakout pattern above, or are we going to perhaps continue sideways before we have the next breakout, right? Oh, by the way, if you're not following me on Twitter, please follow me at EddieLux_. So going back to this chart, right? Bitcoin obviously looks really good right now. I think it's safe to say, at least for now, that Bitcoin has probably made its final bottom for the bear market, right? Sorry, it's lagging a little bit. So basically in Q4 of last year, safe to say, unless the stock market crashes or there's some exogenous event, the bottom has likely occurred around here, following the FTX debacle, right? And we probably have bottom, and now we're probably going to continue higher. The question is, what is the direction that we continue higher, right? Are we going to continue parabolically like we saw in 2019, right? Like I just said on this Twitter thread, we could see a 26% rise here and also 26% rise, basically identically 4 years ago exactly, and then sideways for a month and then explosion higher. And it doesn't look like the price action doesn't look like, right? We just saw a drop in the price this week, but it looks this candle is recovering right now, and it could possibly explode higher, right? Explode higher, right? Or let me present an alternative theory that could possibly happen as well. So this is the 2015-2016 rise, right? Where we saw quite a big rise here, but then we went sideways, right? Holding support at the 100-day, which is the gold line, the 100-day moving average, and eventually going up higher. Sorry, it's lagging a little bit. So will we see something similar? Will we break above and hold this gold line, but move sideways for a while? So maybe not see as strong as a parabolic run or a echo rally, as people say, in 2019 into the summer of 2019. Will we see something similar, or will we see something similar to 2016, where we go up and then go sideways before making the next leg higher, right? So of course I don't know the answer to that. We have to take our market analysis and prediction as it comes day by day, right? The market is not certainty, right? Anybody who says they know what's going to happen, they don't know, okay? Like there's no such thing as nobody can predict the market with certainty. It's all about probabilities, right? As the market develops going forward, the probability of certain scenarios, such as it going parabolic or going sideways before the next move higher, becomes certain or less certain, right? Based on the circumstances, based on the narrative, based on information, data, as it changes, right? But for now, we can say, I think we can say with high degree of probability that this trend will probably continue higher, because we basically are in a bullish pattern, right? From the low, we had a bear market, which is lower lows and lower highs, and now we seem to reverse that with higher highs and higher lows, right? So as long as we maintain this pattern, everything is looking good. And whether we want to speculate on whether it's going to go parabolic higher or it's going to go sideways before making the next leg up higher, that it will remain to be seen based on the information as it comes out moving forward, right? Now let's look at the fear and greed index. Looking pretty healthy for a parabolic run, or not parabolic run, a bullish run, right? In a bull market, it's healthy for the fear and greed index to be in the greed zone, right? When we start getting to extreme greed, that's when you want to be a little concerned. and think about taking some profits. But for now, the fear and greed index is telling us that there's still a lot of potential upside before we start to get overbought, right? Although our indicators are telling us that it is, getting to that zone, but Bitcoin has been historically been able to maintain these levels, overbought levels, as it continues higher, right? So we have to look at different indicators to give us a holistic approach. So let's look at the hash rate. It's looking very good, right? So whoops, yeah. So it was still in an uptrend. Let's zoom out. So yeah, Bitcoin over the last 3 years still looking strong. Still a lot of miners coming online and securing the network. So Bitcoin fundamentals looks very strong. And here you have the 2-year multiplier. And again, I like using this chart because it's very easy to read, right? When Bitcoin is below this green line and it's shaded, it's generally a good time to buy historically, right? When it's above or near touching this orange reddish line, generally overbought and probably a good time to sell, right? And this pattern is looking more like the 2015, where we spent a lot of time below the green line. And when we finally broke above, as long as we're able to stay above this line, it's generally a good time to buy or either buy or just hold your position, right, until we get to that overbought zone. So that's looking very bullish. Pi cycle top indicator does a pretty good job at predicting where the top will be, right? But at the same time, it also has a good record, historical record of telling us where the bottom could possibly be, right? Usually in a bear market, we drop below this orange line for a long time, and eventually we bottom by going sideways, and then eventually re-entering above the orange line, right, but below the green line. And usually when that happens and we're able to hold we'll usually have some corrections as the price attempts to enter a new bull market. It comes down and retests this orange line, but it generally will hold. Except the exception is 2020, when we had the pandemic, right? That was an exogenous event. We quickly recovered and held that orange line and eventually exploded into the next bull market. Right now, the price is doing a good job holding, right? We're above the orange line. We're holding the orange line. We just came down. This was the regional bank crisis that we had last month, and we held it very, very well. And we didn't even touch the line. We just barely hovered above it, and now we're still above. But keep in mind that we're getting close to this green line, which is around 45,000. And last time we had an echo rally, right? We went just above it, and then that was a sign to sell, right? And then we came down. So if this does move up higher, like we saw in 2019, that could be a sign to take some profits, right? But we have to see which pattern is it going to take, right? Are we going to go straight up higher, or are we going to take our time and move sideways? I think that how the price interacts with this 100-week moving average, this gold line, whether we just go straight up above and then eventually come down to retest, or whether we come up above just barely and it comes down to retest as support, it will determine whether we follow 2019 or whether we follow 2016 price action, right? So yeah, there's really not much to talk about. There hasn't really been a lot of things happening within this space. There is a meeting with Gary Gensler, head of the SEC. He is testifying right now, but so far it hasn't really had a lot of impact on the price of Bitcoin. So yeah, I think that a lot of this is going to depend on the Fed meeting in early May, because Bitcoin, it tends to act as sort of like a high beta stock or something, at least for now. I mean, it's a very risk on asset, right? So when the stock market goes down, Bitcoin tends to go down. When the market goes up, Bitcoin goes up. It just goes up and down. It moves with more volatility, right? Higher beta. So a lot of this is going to depend on what the Fed does, right? Are they going to raise interest rates? I already said multiple times in previous videos that I do think that they're probably going to raise interest rates at least 25 basis points 2 times, right? So for a total of 50 basis points total for the remainder of the year, which would bring the terminal rate just above 5%. Now, of course, this is going to depend on inflation. If inflation becomes hot again and starts running, then of course I'm going to adjust my prediction higher. But so far, inflation has remained as expected. We had a CPI report last week that showed that inflation did move up a little bit, but it moved up as expected. So that didn't really affect the price of Bitcoin too much, or even the stock market. So of course, the next big event is going to be in early May, and that's when the next Fed meeting is. And yeah, that's going to be our next big catalyst moment. But for now, I'll just provide updates based on the price action as it develops going forward, and yeah, we will navigate that Fed meeting together and see what kind of impact it has on the stock market, but also on the crypto markets like Bitcoin. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, helpful, informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.